Hey folks, it's been a few months. This is Judy the Knitting Hiker, back from a hiatus. I've been doing a lot of hiking and a lot of knitting and crochet, but I just haven't been getting these videos edited, so I'm going to start fresh with some new video showing Daffodil Flats. It was a hike I took a couple weeks ago. The daffodils were in full bloom. It's along the Linville Gorge and in North Carolina, and it's just beautiful. We made it into a whole 5-6 hour hike. It was I don't know, 3,000 feet elevation. It was a good 12-13 miles, but it doesn't have to be. It's still a lot of elevation, but you can keep it to about 6 or 8 miles, and you do have to drive along a gravel road. So I was lucky enough to know someone who had a truck that could navigate. But have a look. I didn't take a whole lot of video, but I'll just insert it right here, and then we'll be talking about knitting. Okay, this is what they call Daffodil Flats. We are surrounded by daffodils. They're just growing wild here on the banks of the Linville River. So we just hiked down to Linville Gorge on the, I think it's the Linville Gorge Trail lead mine trail, and it's not too bad coming down, but I hear it's going to be hard going up. But we're here to see the daffodils. They're blooming. It is Leap Day, March 29th. So those daffodils were beautiful. I did not pick daffodils when I was there. These are from my garden. They're not, I don't know what they are, some kind of in the daffodil family, but they smell really good. And they have a lot of flowers on one stalk. So there has been so much knitting, crocheting, and a new thing, spinning. I learned how to spin. I went to the Carolina Fiber Festival in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that was 2 weekends ago. It was a really rainy weekend. There was no hiking going on, and it was so fun to learn how to spin. Let me show you a little bit. Okay, this is my, it's very thick and thin, but they gave us these really fun bats of fiber. I still have a little bit left that I'm going to be working on. I'm not going to do it on camera because I'm fumble, I drop things, and I don't think I could manage it. But I'm working on another bunch, and the tricky part is when you reach the end of a bunch of fiber, and then you have to connect a new piece, and I don't want to do that on camera because it's painful to watch. But hey, if you go to a festival and you see a class on drop spindle, try it, because I'm not sure that I'm going to be ever good enough to do something I could knit with, but hey, it's just fun to learn. So let's pick up some of these projects that I've been working on. This is Practical Magic. It is by Boo Knits, and I don't know if you can see, there's beads. I've been on a bead kick ever since I made this lacy wedding shawl for my daughter's upcoming wedding. I've been getting into this, and I might bring this to wear in the air conditioning, even though it'll be warm May in Florida. I think I'll definitely need something in case I get chilled in the air conditioning. So this is by Boo Knits, and the yarn that I used is, wait, I've got it here. Juniper Moon Farm Findley is the yarn, and it's a lace weight yarn, merino and silk, and it's very soft, very light, and you get something like 800 yards in one skein. So it was enough to make this whole shawl. So it's a good deal. Okay, what else we got here? Okay, there's a lot of crochet. Where are they? I have a stack of, what did I do? Well, let me show you this. This is handy. Ta-da! This is a mermaid. I crocheted this. I still have to put her mouth on, but this, I'm very proud of the hair. That is so cool. Crochet is very fast though. I mean, I think the hair took a couple hours, but the rest of it just sort of came together pretty quickly. And I did this in 2 days. And this is also for the upcoming wedding. This is going to be a little favor for one of the little girls. There's only going to be 2 kids at this wedding. So this will be her, since it's a beach wedding, this will be her something to play with at the wedding and also something to keep. This is more crochet. I made 8 of these covered hangers. There's some wood hangers that I got from, I think it was eBay or Etsy, and they were bare wood, and I just found this pattern by, I think it's by Sandra Paul, who has a podcast or a YouTube video called Cherry Heart, and she's mostly does crochet, and these were just such a nice whimsical. We used to have stuff like this in the closet when I was a kid growing up. My mother, either she made them or somebody gave them to her. These were a big deal in the 70s. So it's kind of nice to find a pattern and maybe do a little bit, do more muted colors, because they used to be, the style was to do really bright. I'm not quite done weaving in the ends, and there's also a bunch of little flowers that go on some of them. So I'm gonna see if I might sew these on to a few. Another thing that's also crochet is, this is a pot holder or a hot mat for a hot pot, and it's crochet, and it was a way for me to learn. I've done a lot of crochet in single colors, but not patterns where you carry the color, and I kind of winged it. I think the problem here is the yellow shows through, but that's because these yarns, this one's a little thicker than that one. But it was just something to learn how to do it. Next time I'll work at yarns that are more of the same thickness. I think that'll work better. And I do have a couple, one more knitting thing. When I went on the Daffodil hike, I brought some knitting because I was a passenger, and I did a Fiddly Bits cowl. And this is just long enough where it goes around double. And it's probably here in South Carolina, in the mountains, it's still getting a little too warm to wear something like this, but this will be great for the winter. I have one like this that I wear all the time, and I figured I would give this as a gift to the person who organized the Daffodil hike that I went on a couple weeks ago. So it's got little bits of yellow in it, and it's an easy pattern. It's Hypnotizer, or I think she goes by Hyper Knits now. Anyways, it's called Fiddly Bits, and it's wonderful because when it's all scraps of all the yarn I've knit with in the last year or two. What I do is I keep the ends or the little balls, if you have a little tiny nugget of yarn that you can't use, instead of throwing it out, I keep them and I make a magic knot and make a big ball. And once I have enough grams, I'll weigh it and see if it's enough. And I think this is like 200 grams or something. And it's just fun because the knots don't show because it's a tube. So see, there's no back. The back is on the inside. So it's a fun thing to do if you're doing a car trip and I have all the memories of all the yarn that I've used over the last couple of years. Let's see. This is, now we'll go back to knitting. So the spinning was something I learned at the Carolina Fiber Festival. And also there was a couple of my favorite vendors. One is Knitting Notions. That's her logo. And I have seen her at a lot of shows around the South, and she's got beautiful yarn, and I like her aesthetic. She does these tonal solids, not really speckled, but a tiny bit, and they're great for showing off lace knitting. So she also designed this. Let's see, her name is Catherine Harrison, and she owns Knitting Notions, and she's been doing this for a long time, and she has these great lace patterns that look so good on her. I don't know if you can see, but there's a lot of depth in the color because it's a tonal solid and not just a flat solid. There's little bits and pieces. You do, I guess you're supposed to alternate skeins with something like this, but what I usually do is I only alternate it like when I get to close to the end of the skein and I'm going to put a new one on, then I will do a couple rows where I alternate so that the color change isn't so harsh. What else? There was so the way this thing works out is it's a long, like 6.5, 7 foot. It will have, this is a provisional cast on. I'll go back and do a knitted lace border on the end. And then you wear it around your shoulders with this little pin that holds like a shawl pin, and it kind of makes it look like a short sleeve or wrap because of the way it hangs. It's nice and drapey. So I just got the whole thing. I love when I see a sample project and I buy the yarn from the person who designed the pattern and then the little accessory, because I like to do that. This sweater has a story to it. It is a linen sweater. I'm not modeling it right now because I've got another shirt to model, but this is, I modified it quite a bit. It's meant to be a very roomy, almost like a tunic, but I shortened it and made it short sleeves. So it's called Etra, E-T-R-A, by Natalie Palik. And she's a Ukrainian designer. And I've had this pattern in my queue for a few months. I started working on it. Here's the serendipity. I want to call it my serendipity sweater. So I was started it about a month ago, and I was so excited to use up this linen yarn, which it's kind of a fingering weight linen. It's very light and almost lace weight. And I had gotten it at Recraft, which is a store here in Greenville, South Carolina, where it's like a thrift store for artists and crafters. Craft materials, art materials, knitting needles, zippers, thread, tons of fabric. It's a fun place to go and sift through. I think these things, these recraft centers, they're all part of a movement, I guess, to keep things out of the landfill. And it's just a gold mine, and it's just fun to go look and see what you might find. So I had found this linen yarn. I thought, oh, it wasn't wound. I didn't really know. It was kind of a couple half skeins, and I wasn't sure how much I had. So I just, started the sweater, and very soon realized I had nowhere near enough. I mean, it was going to be like up to here, super crop, like it would barely cover the ladies. So I was at a loss at what to do, because I love this lace border, and I was in the home stretch doing the torso because it was a top down sweater. So anyways, I was going to a local festival called the Knit In that the Greenville Knitting Guild puts on. And I didn't know much about it, but I just thought I'd go to the vendor space. I think it was only $5 to get in to see the vendors. And sure enough, I had looked up on Ravelry, this yarn was discontinued. So I didn't know what I was going to do to get it, because I don't see much fingering weight linen yarn. And at this festival was a a vendor who is in the upstate of South Carolina. She's a few miles from, maybe 30 miles from where I am. She was at this festival with the same yarn. She bought the production of this Belgian-made yarn. I'm not sure how the business arrangement works, but it was the yarn formerly known as Euroflax Luette, I guess. And it was discontinued, but then she kept it in production, and now her brand is Lofty Fiber. And so it's Lofty Fiber Euroflax was a very popular yarn that I think everybody thinks is discontinued, but it's just been under new ownership. And so she was there. So the serendipity was, here I am the night before I reached the end of my bargain yarn and didn't know what to do because it was discontinued, and I really couldn't find anything on Ravelry and people selling from their stash. So, and then there she was. And so the yarn on the bottom almost matches the yarn on the yoke. So where this green ends was where I was ended. And so I bought one more skein from Lofty Fiber, and I had enough to finish it and make it a normal length t-shirt. So I'm going to get a lot of use out of that, especially if we have some beach trips. I think I have to wash and dry this a few times because you know how linen is a little stiff, but I think it will be a very fun summer top that I'm going to wear. And I've got to get some more of this linen because it was so fun to knit with. It really didn't hurt my hands. It's got a nice texture to it, maybe because it's so thin. But I don't know if you've ever had something like that happen with yarn where you think something's discontinued, you're at the end of your rope, and then less than 24 hours later, I find the person, and I don't live in a big city. I mean, the fact that this local yarn shop owner bought the production line from this Belgian yarn, I don't know what that's all about. I guess with people selling online, you know, these things can be done by smaller business people. But anyways, get some of that Euroflax. I love knitting with it. And the other story I wanted to tell you is about this shirt. If you can see, it looks like, oh, that's nice. It's a sunrise over the mountains. But if you look closer, you realize the sun is a ball of yarn, and the mountains are also like a knitted fabric. So this is one of my favorite people who does graphics for knitting and hiking. Her name's Augusta Donaldson, and she does the Camp Stitchwood, where they have Pearl Scouts where you can get a little badge showing whether you've done brioche or gone on a knitting road trip, or she has millions of these, or tens of, maybe she has about 40, but she was at the show that I went to in Raleigh, and she has these cool, look at that, it's a sunrise, but it's really, it's sort of like the thing on my shirt, but this is the full color. Well, Augusta has also been, I reached out to her, I bumped into her at a show when I was in New York a couple years ago, near Rhinebeck. She was at a small local show, and I love her aesthetic, and I reached out to her, and she made my logo for my YouTube channel. So that's Augusta at Camp Stitchwood. Check her out. I love her stuff. So if I see you in the North Carolina mountains, if you're hiking in the North Carolina mountains, reach out to me, send me a message, judythenittinghiker@gmail.com. I'd love to know, bump into you guys and do a meetup somewhere. But happy hiking and happy knitting.